Hey guys, so I'm gonna, of course, show you another book, and its title is Bertie, written by MACDONALD. The title is HugZi, and before we start, I'm gonna introduce you to Mr. Bear, my reading pal, and let's get cracking. Chapter 1. Munch, crunch. Bertie was back from school and raiding the biscuits tin. Mum was coming. Put it back, Bertie, she said. Don't forget you've got the dentist tomorrow. Bertie's legs suddenly flat. Weak. His eyes bulged. The dentist? Yes, said Mum. You and Susie are due for a checkup. But I went for, stammered Bertie. That was last year, said Mum. Susie looked up from her homework. I like going to the dentist, she said. Mr. Feelings says I've got perfect teeth. Bertie stuck out his tongue at her. Just 'cause you are scared, cheered Susie. I'm not, said Bertie. You are, said Susie. Last time Mum had to drag you there. That was a lie, thought Bertie. He'd hooked on to the lamppost because he was worried they were early. Besides, it wasn't his fault that 3 dentists looked scary. Mr. Feeling had big hairy hands and mad eyes and wore a mask over his mouth. Bertie thought he looked like a muddiard with his teeth. None of them had fallen out, so why did he have to go? Wait a moment. Didn't Mum say his checkup was tomorrow? He was saved. I can't go, he said. I've got school. Don't worry, said Mum. I dropped a note in to Miss Boot this morning. Bertie groaned. Anyway, said Mum, if you clean your teeth, you've nothing to worry about. I clean my teeth, boasted Susie. Bertie frowned. He did clean his teeth, just not every day. It saved time just to slosh water around his mouth. Now, and again, he used toothpaste, but mainly for drawing faces on his mirror. He ran in his tongue over his teeth. They didn't feel a bit furry. What if they were crawling with toothy germs? He might need to have something done. A peeling or seven a teeth out? Darren said that his dentist pulled teeth out with his bare hands. Bertie glumped. He needed to think of an excuse quickly. Wait, Mum, said she'd written Miss Boot a note. So what was to stop Miss Boot writing back? Bertie rushed upstairs to find a pencil and paper. Dear Mrs. Burns, just to let you know, Bertie saw the school dentist today. It said Bertie's teeth was the best in the class. They are so good he do not need to see the dentist again. Not never. Miss Boot teacher. That should do it, thought Bertie, holding the letter into He took it downstairs and waited as Mum read it through. She frowned. I see, said Miss Booth. This did she? Bertie nodded. This afternoon, strange, said Mum. The handwriting is exactly like yours. Is it? Said Bertie. Yes, said Mum. And she can't spell her own name. She screwed up the letter and tossed it in the bin. Nice try, Bertie, she said, but you are going to the dentist, and that's fine. Chapter 2. Bertie breathed, Mr. Feeling, I've been waiting for you. Bertie pushed back into a chair. Clink! Errant rings. Snap! Down over his wrist. He was a prisoner. Now let's have a look, shall we? Cackled Mr. Feeling. The mask over his face slipped down, revealing 2 sharp fangs. Bertie woke up in bed, clutching his pillow. He opened his eyes. Thank goodness, it was only a nightmare. That day it was it today, just a normal school day. Maths, English, then Bertie turned, called. Then the dentist helped. Later that day, Bertie sat in the dentist's waiting room. Susie yawned. Mum was reading a magazine. None of the other people in the waiting room seemed nervous at all. Bertie stared at the poster on the opposite wall. A large smile tooth said, brush your teeth. Bertie wished he was back in school. Anything was better than this. He slumped back in his chair with a groan. What's the matter? Scared, said Susie. Course not, said Bertie. You are such a baby, said Susie. I'm not, scowled Bertie. And I'm not afraid of the dentist either. Good, said Susie. Then you won't mind going first. Bertie turned pale. Go first? Why couldn't he go last? Or better still, go home. He gripped his seat from now on. He vowed to clean his teeth 10 times a day. He would even use toothpaste. He would give up sweets apart from jelly snakes, obviously, and dental Nurse came in. Bertie and Susie Burns. Who's going first? She asked. Susie Burns. Who's going first? She asked. Bertie, said Susie, pointing to him. Bertie got shankily to his feet. This was it. He was a dead man. Good luck, whispered Susie. Don't wet your pants. Do you want me to come with you? Asked Mum. Bertie shook his head. He wasn't a baby. The nurse had gone ahead. Bertie dragged himself down the corridor. Mr. Feeling's surgery was the last room on the left. The door was slightly open, and yes, it's a real shame, he said. He's only 7 years old. Is there nothing you can do? The nurse asked. Afraid not. It's the Denkin test. Wait, he'll have to be put to sleep. Bertie froze. His blood ran cold. he had imagined it. No, he'd heard it with his own ears. The dentist once was planning to put him to sleep, in other words, dumping him off. Bertie glummed. Hadn't he always said Mr. Feeling looked like a murderer? That explained why he was clothes. So he didn't leave fingerprints. Bertie looked around widely. He could run back and tell his mum, but she'd never believe him. Mr. Feeling a murderer? Don't be silly, Bertie. She'd laugh. No, there was only one thing for it. He had to escape. Bertie spotted a cloakroom to his right. He slipped inside the clothes and the door. Chapter 3. Bertie paced up and down, trying to stay calm. He had to get out of here before the mad murderer came for him. The nurse was obviously his evil assistant. She'd probably been hypnotized. Somehow he had to make it past the reception without getting caught. But how? He looked around. Maybe he could escape through the window, but it was too high up. Or down the toilet. But what if he got stuck? His eye fell on some hats and coats hanging up beside the door. A disguise! A minute later, Bertie slipped out of the cloakroom. He was dressed in a big grey overcoat which dragged on the floor. He hadn't a drippy hat pulled down over his eyes and a scarf wound round his face. He swept down the hall, trying hard not to trip on his coat-tails. Mr. Fogat, Bertie halted. Did the reception mean him? He looked around. There was no one else about. Mr. Fogat, if you've got a moment, please, said the reception. Bertie shuffled over to the desk, keeping his head down. The hat was too big and kept slipping over his eyes. We just need to book your next appointment, said the reception. When would you like to come? Bertie wobbled his head. He mumbled. Sorry, said the reception. Bertie flapped his long sleeves. He repeated. I see, nodded the reception, who hadn't understood a word. What about the 24th, Mr. Fogat? She shouted as if he was deaf. It's a Thursday. Bertie nodded. He didn't care what day it was as long as he could go. The reception scribbled the date on a card and handed it to him. Is that all right? She yelled. Bubbled Bertie, taking the card. He hurried away. It was touch to and go, but he thought he'd got away with it all. He had to do now was make it down the stairs. Excuse me. A hat tapped him on the shoulder. Ah, it was his mom. Have you seen a small boy? She asked. About this big with a runny nose. Bertie shook his head feebly. The hat slipped over his eyes and fell off. There was only one thing to do. Run for it! He made a dash for the stairs, but it was no use. Mum had hold of scarf and reeled him in. "And where do you think you are off to?" she said. Chapter 4. Mum dragged Bertie back down the corridor to the surgery. Mr. Feeling turned round. "Ah, Bertie, found you at last," he deemed, trying to escape. "Were you? Ha ha!" Mr. Feeling had a round face with eyebrows and danced around like hairy caterpillars. Bertie stared at his big hands. "Jump up and have a seat then," he said, patting the chair for a murder. He seemed in a pretty good mood. Bertie looked back at Mum, who folded her arms. There was no way out. He sat down in the black leather chair. It rose up humming as it tittled backwards. Dancing elephants on the ceiling. "Okay, young man. Comfortable?" doomed Mr. Feeling. Bertie nodded. His hands were starting to sweat. What was the dentist's evil plan? A deadly injection? Possibly mouthwash? Mr. Feeling's mask face loomed into view. "Open wide," he said, picking up a long silver instrument. "Ee! Ah!" Bertie leaped from the chair as if he'd been shot from a catapult. He grabbed a giant toothbrush and a display. "Keep back or I'll use it," he cried. Mr. Feeling's eyebrows shot skywards. Mum advanced. Bertie plotted out of the door. "Bertie, get back here," shouted Mum in the hallway. Bertie almost ran into the reception. He swerved left and burst into the waiting room. People looked up from their magazine in surprise. "Hide me!" Bertie panted, waving his toothbrush. Susie rolled her eyes. "What are you on about? Quick, he's coming! He's going to murder me!" "Rex! Yes, my dog! He's very ill, and the vet says it's kindest to put him to sleep." The heads all turned back to Bertie. "Oh, I see, your dog," he mumbled. Mum marched over and grabbed him. "Now, can we please get this over with?" she said. Bertie lay back in the dentist chair while Mr. Feeling examined his teeth. "It wasn't my fault," he thought. "Anyone can make a mistake." Mr. Feeling took off his mask. They're all done," he said. Bertie blinked. What was it? No injection, no feelings. He hadn't felt a thing. He sat up, feeling a bit foolish. Susie would never let him forget this. Wait till the story got round school. Bertie hiding from the dentist. He'd never hear the last of it. Scaredy cat, cowed Curtin. They'd call after him. Your teeth are fine, said Mr. Feely. Just don't forget to clean them. Bertie climbed down from the chair. I'm sorry about, before the murder Mr. Feeling Lot. Oh, don't worry, I'm used to it. Nervous Princess. Your sister used to be the worst. Susie, said Bertie. This was news to him. Oh, yes, she used to scream if I came near her, smiled Mr. Feeling. I had to give her Mr. Teddy King's to cuddle. He pointed to a large Google-eyed teddy bear in the corner. Bertie smiled to himself. Mr. Steadykins, wait till the next time Susie called him a cry baby. She was never going to tease him again. And that was the end of Toothy. And please subscribe and write a comment or like. Thank you for watching.